Hello, Global Animal Health Nation. Welcome to our interview series where we will be showcasing the stories of innovators, movers, and shakers all over the world doing big things in the animal health community. Today we will be visiting with an industrial and product design major all the way from Dublin who, together with 3 of his university colleagues, came up with an idea for a college class that quickly graduated into a real business. These 4 tech gurus stumbled into an animal health startup that gained the attention and funding of the Yield Lab and Enterprise Ireland. His story just goes to show that innovation within academia can be spun out into an entrepreneurial endeavor in the animal health industry. Let's learn more about his story. So hi, Sean. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about your company, Micron Agritech, which is an exciting startup, and you're calling us from Ireland today. Is that right?
Hi, Amanda. Great to be speaking to you. Yes, we're a startup based here in Dublin, in Ireland. We are essentially developing at the moment our first product, which is Micron Kit. It's a portable and pen-side parasite diagnostics tool. That's a mouthful. For mammals, for production animals. So we'll initially be launching with cattle, but the technology also applies to equine and sheep and domestic animals as well. The core of the technology is machine learning. So essentially, we almost like to say we're a tech company, in agriculture. So hence Agritech. So it's machine learning technology, and it works through automatically analyzing images of these prepared fecal samples. So essentially, Micron Kit contains everything a farmer or vet would need to collect, prepare, and then automatically analyze fecal samples for parasites.
That's brilliant. So tell me a little bit about your background. Are you an animal health advocate by training, or what's your background in?
Great question. So there's 4 founders. Micron Agritech, we founded in 2019, and it's funny, we met studying product design in TU Dublin, Technological University Dublin. So the initial idea for Micron Kit kind of stemmed from a student entrepreneurship project. But then, obviously we began talking to lots of farmers and vets, and we sort of developed Micron Kit from a real user-centered design approach. So trying to make it, how can we solve this problem and, of things like anthelmintic resistance and overuse of medication in agriculture, but really took what does the customer actually need? That's kind of approach we took to solving it. And then obviously we've brought in since the machine learning and the animal health expertise into the team, to back up the science behind it as well. So that's all really strong. We've grown now from a team of 4 originally to 9 now in total, and that's constantly growing as we're bringing in funding and expanding the product.
Can you give us a little more explanation about the device itself?
Sure. So essentially it works, as I mentioned, through collecting a fecal sample. A number of sort of very easy to follow preparation steps that the sample needs to go through. So kind of just, adding water to homogenize it, and it gets filtered and centrifuged. And there's a few different steps, but I suppose just reiterate again and highlight, it's really simple to follow, and it doesn't actually require any sort of clinical training. So any sort of farmer can perform the test. It takes about 5 minutes to do that sample preparation. Essentially what happens is then there's a reader within the Micron Kit that accepts the slide. So the slide goes into the reader, and then we've developed a system that allows a smartphone, the user's phone, to attach to the reader. So the camera of the phone then is actually taking the images of the sample, and then they're in turn uploaded to our servers, where the machine learning model runs on those images and is able to identify any parasite eggs that are present and kind of count them, and then give a burden level of infection back to the user, which obviously then they can use to determine if they need to give a medication to the animals or not.
Wow, that sounds really user-friendly, which for most farmers is probably one of the most important aspects of any technology that you're bringing on the farm. That's awesome. So I know that you guys have been really successful in your funding. Can you give us some background and maybe some tips for other startups who may be watching about the funding you've received and how you were successful in getting that funding?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because we essentially raised our seed round last year in 2020. So, it was peak COVID, when no one, we couldn't meet face to face with investors, so it was really an interesting challenge, and no one had really done it before. So we had to figure a lot of things out. Essentially, we raised €500,000 in seed funding. But I would say, like, the first thing is, all of the investors that are involved in that round, we had been talking to probably for the 12 months previous to closing the round. So there really is that, element of building up relationships early, networking, going to industry shows, and, so I'll just touch on Enterprise Ireland, for example. They're a state agency here in Ireland. They're government funded, but they're actually one of the largest VCs in the world, when it comes to amount invested, and they offer really great supports to startups here in Ireland. But they run events throughout the year, and I think just before kind of COVID in February, we were at some of their events, and again, like, connecting with investors, and just over the next sort of six months, we just having calls and building those relationships, and then eventually the conversations progressed to terms, and so we were able to close out the round in the end. But the number one important thing is definitely networking and building sort of strong relationships with your investors early on.
So speaking of next steps, what are your next steps? What are you looking for? Partnerships, mass production, trialing with farmers? What's the next steps for you?
It's kind of all of the above. So over the next 6 to 12 months, the key steps are essentially customer and clinical validation. So we've done some clinical trials to date, and the results have been really promising. There's a little bit more clinical work to do. And then just customer trials as well, you mentioned there. So really it's just phasing out that sort of, it's like a long launch plan almost. It's we don't want to call it launches, because there's sort of beta testing and doing some price sensitivity testing, and we'll need funding as well to do that. So, then to have that ready to go in the next sort of 12 to 18 months to do that big Series A round, so we can really just scale.
Well, we've run out of time. Thank you, Sean, for your great feedback and your story today. I think you're really a shining example of what happens when 4 people with great skills get together and try to tackle a problem, and yours just happened to be in animal health. So really inspirational story for startups and other entrepreneurs out there. As we know, point of care diagnostics at the pen side is the next forefront of innovation in detecting and preventing disease in livestock animals, and seems like you guys are leading the herd in that way. So we wish you all the success, and we'll be watching your journey closely. I'll attach your contact details at the bottom of this video for those who want to learn more. And of course, they can reach out to us at theglobalanimalhealthnetwork.com for more information about Micron Agritech or other movers and shakers in the industry. So Sean, I just really appreciate your time today, and looking forward to continue watching you all and your journey as you grow and expand into the animal health industry.
Thanks, Amanda. It's always great to chat.